guys, so I want to make a video about spear guns. Still a new beginner, about 6 months that I've been spearfishing, and I've been free diving as well. I learned a lot from YouTube. I found a lot of educational videos, but most videos, they were like by professional spearos, which I think it gives a different angle on what is important for a beginner, because I started from nothing. I had to learn what is a spear gun, how to use it, and how to free dive. So my learning curve was, so I really like to have a video that explains what is important from a beginner point of view, from a person like me 6 months ago. What is really important, because when you start reading about different spear guns, there's so much more information about different spear guns, and you don't really know what is really important for you. So we will talk about 3 important things that I find out are the most important thing for you when you buy a spear gun. The size of the spear gun. We will talk about, you can see different sizes, obviously, I'll explain that. We will talk about, this is called the muzzle, an open or a closed muzzle version. So these are 2 things we will talk about. We will also talk about the trigger mechanism. This is very important. I would say these are the 3 important things that you really have to learn when you buy your first spear gun. But we will also touch on other topics of the spear gun that I think are important. Ricardo!
How's it going? Sorry.
My friend Ricardo is here to help me spearfish as well. He has a different gun. We'll talk about that as well.
The young?
That's a big gun, eh?
Yeah.
This one got the biggest gun. What's a spear gun? A spear gun is basically a slingshot. It's a slingshot underwater. This is your sling, and this is what you shoot with. A spear gun will shoot in the water from anywhere from 3 to 15 feet, all depending on the size of the barrel, how long is the barrel, the size of your line, how many bands. This is extremely important. We will talk about that. How many rubber bands you have, and to a less point, the diameter of the shaft itself. So here we have 3 different spear guns and 3 different sizes, like you can see. My first spear gun, according to all the reviews, I bought a 90 centimeter spear gun. In my opinion, for a beginner, no. It's just too big to maneuver, and it takes too long to load it. I would recommend, despite of all the pro that told me to buy 90 or 100 centimeter, I would recommend a gun like mine, that's a 60 centimeter, or Ricardo's gun that's a little bit smaller. Why? It really depends on your style. If you're going for reef, then, and if you're going like in a smaller areas and between caves, then yes, the smaller one. If you're going for deep blue water, trying to catch tunas, barracudas, yes, you need a bigger one. But when you first learn, small one is much easier. I bought my first big one, used it for 6 months, learned a lot. I bought this one recently, and I went in the water with it in Puerto Ventura yesterday, and man, like loading this gun, 30 seconds it took me. First 1 minute I tried, 30 seconds. Loading this gun, longer. So when you have like a perfect fish and you're like, oh, and this is really long, so that's really the big thing about size. Size matters. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, we will talk about open and closed muzzle. This is really important as well. What does that mean? The way you load your spear gun, this is called a muzzle. The way you load it into the mechanism is either open or closed. So this is closed. You have here, you have this to guide you through the loading mechanism. It's easier to load, okay? It gives you a bit of guidance, okay? The disadvantage to having a closed muzzle is that once you shoot your gun, the spear has a tendency to wobble a little bit. And also, it is a little bit more noisy than open muzzle. Overall, I would say buy closed muzzle. Easier to load and much more suitable for beginners. then you can make up your mind after when you become a pro and you can go for an open muzzle. The last thing that I want to talk about is the trigger mechanism. Trigger mechanism, you want something that they either come in plastic or in stainless steel. You want something that's stainless steel. That's really important. I mentioned that. I wasn't going to mention it, but I mentioned it because it's such a safety feature. If this thing fails because it's plastic, because of the salt water, because of salt water mainly, and if this breaks, then you have a gun that can misfire anytime, especially when you're in the water and you're diving with your buddies and your gun fires. Not good. So these are the three things that I think are most important. So we go back to size. Choose a smaller size that you can maneuver easily in the water, you can load easily. 60 to 75 is what I recommend. Number two, the trigger, that's number three, but the trigger, make sure it's stainless steel, not plastic. Muzzle, choose closed muzzle over open muzzle as a beginner. Again, this is my own personal experience. I'm not a pro, but this is just my own intake as a beginner on what makes a good spear gun for a beginner. Here we have the Rob Allen 90 centimeter. It was my first gun that I bought. I shot a lot of fish with it. The things that I learned that are of secondary importance to you. This is called the shaft. Your shaft, Susie's always making jokes about that. So your shaft has to be of galvanized steel. Why? Because you don't want it to corrode over water. The shaft, the diameter of the shaft is 6 to 8 millimeters. So choose something that's between 6 to 8. Once you go for bigger fish, then you can go 8 and above. So the thickness is, stronger shaft means you can, cannot be bent in the water. Another important thing that's really worth mentioning is your loading mechanism. This is called a wishbone. Wishbone comes in different sizes and different types. The first wishbone I had on my Rob Allen spear gun was made from Dyneema. Dyneema is very strong material that you can use for rigging, for running rigging on your boat. Dyneema, but using the Dyneema on my spear gun had always created problems for me. I had one Dyneema line break on me. Go figure, Dyneema is supposed to be as hard as steel. You can use it for running rigging on your boat. What I would recommend is, see this push art gun. I had one of these as well. They tend to break over time. I broke one. The best one I found in the market is made by Cressy. This is a Cressy gun, and this mechanism here is really strong. These bands, they open up. Okay, so choose a metal wishbone, and the one that, the harder, the tougher the material, the better, the stronger shot you will have. The last thing I want to talk about is also secondary importance in my opinion is the size of your rubber band. Okay, that is where the strength of your shot comes from. This guy. Okay, so they usually come in sizes of 5 to 8 or like 9/16 inches. The shorter the rubber band, the more force you have. The thicker the rubber band, the more force being created. You can have a stronger gun with a double band. The Rob Allen came with 2 bands. 1, 2. The second rubber band broke. Well, it didn't break, but the wishbone broke. I mentioned that earlier. So now I use it with 1. I find it really enough because I don't shoot like really big fish over. I just don't. That's not my style of fishing right now. I'm doing lots of caves and lots of reef diving. So I usually shoot my fish within a close proximity. So that the band, I haven't needed to add one. You can also add ones. You can add more bands. What else we need to talk about? I think that's it. This is a really cool feature as well. I didn't know what this was till I actually used it. You shoot the fish, then this goes through the body of the fish. This is the fish. Then when the fish tries to come out, so that holds your fish in place. Hopefully you can make a merciful kill for the fish. Stab it in the brain, kill its nervous system so it's not suffering. But that's about all I learned on spear guns. I hope this video helps other beginners in spearfishing, as it helped me. It also helped me just to record it and to recite what's important for me in a spear gun. So size, muzzle, and trigger. These are the three important things in my opinion. Happy fishing, and maybe we'll catch some fish today and I'll take some video and I'll upload it to the channel as well. Ciao.